If you're seeing this right now, there's a reason your attention stopped here. Something in your body registered this before your mind did. Have you felt that quiet pull lately? The one you can't explain but can't ignore either? Does it feel like something in your life is waiting to break open, but you're not sure from which direction it will come? Pay attention to that, because the first thing coming through is this. You're not imagining the shift, you're feeling the moment just before light finds you. That's the peak energy opening this reading. Here's where it gets clearer. There's a part of you that's been moving through life almost too quietly lately. Not in a withdrawn way, more in a conserving your last pieces of energy kind of way. Maybe you've noticed yourself taking longer before answering messages. Maybe you've been rereading the same text draft for minutes before pressing send. Or maybe you felt that strange ache of wanting connection while also pulling your energy back to protect your peace. Does that feel familiar? You're not falling behind, you're recalibrating, and the energy around you is beginning to notice. You've been carrying yourself so gracefully through heaviness that you forgot the universe has been holding the other end of the rope. Let's slow down here just for a second, because the collective emotional field around you right now feels like someone who has learned to handle life independently and almost too well. You've kept going even on the days when your chest felt tight and your thoughts felt louder than the room you were in. You've been the one who steadied yourself when no one else saw the wobble. Maybe you've been overthinking one situation in particular, a connection, a silence, a decision that hasn't landed yet. You're not in a plateau, you're in a pre-opening. The difference matters. Now let's move card by card, because each one is speaking directly to the emotional chapters you've been walking through. This card arrives like a soft inhale after months of shallow breathing. There's something beautifully vulnerable about this energy, like the moment you finally sit alone in your room at night and admit the truth you've been brushing aside all day. There's a healing happening inside you that you haven't fully named yet. Maybe you've been repairing from disappointment. Maybe you've been healing from someone who left you with more questions than closure. Or maybe you've just been slowly rebuilding trust in yourself after carrying more than you ever said out loud. Have you noticed yourself craving quiet spaces more than usual? That's not isolation. That's your spirit pulling you back to center. Here's where the energy shifts. You're stepping into a chapter where hope doesn't hurt anymore. There's a specific emotional scene coming through for you, something very real world. You sitting with your phone in your hand, staring at a message thread that feels unfinished, not because you're waiting for someone to rescue you, but because a part of you knows you deserve clarity, softness, and effort that comes without being begged for. Does that hit somewhere? The star wants you to know this. Your heart is not fragile. It's recalibrating to a higher standard. You're remembering what it feels like to want more without apologizing for it. And something else, your intuition is sharper than it's been in months. You're sensing things before they happen. You're feeling the emotional intention behind someone's silence. You're noticing who shows up without being asked and who only reaches for you when they need something. This is inner renewal, quiet, powerful, and overdue.
Now here's where it gets interesting, because this card comes through like someone placing both hands on your shoulders and reminding you who you are. This is the energy of standing on your own 2 feet, but not in the lonely, self-sacrificing way you've done before. This is about reclaiming the parts of yourself you had to set aside to survive. You may have recently had small moments of remembering your worth, rewriting a message so it doesn't sound like you're over-explaining, stopping yourself mid-apology because you realized you didn't actually do anything wrong, feeling a subtle spark when you imagined what your life could look like without the emotional weight you've been carrying. Have you noticed that too? You're becoming the version of yourself that you used to think you had to earn. Let's make this even more concrete. There's an everyday moment coming through strongly. You getting ready in your room, maybe adjusting your clothes, catching your reflection unexpectedly. For the first time in a long time, you didn't critique yourself. You just paused, and something softened. That's the 9 of Pentacles working in your energy, the quiet rebuilding of confidence that doesn't need permission. This card marks a turning point in your boundaries too. You're no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You're no longer willing to shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Someone in your life has already noticed this shift in you, even if they haven't said it. Your energy is changing before your circumstances do. And that's exactly when the next card steps in.
Now, here's where the energy starts moving. The Knight of Cups doesn't arrive quietly. It arrives like the moment your heart flickers in your chest without warning, when something or someone stirs you in a way you weren't expecting. This card carries the emotional signature of movement toward you. Not in a fantasy, not in a guaranteed outcome, but in the way someone's energy becomes more intentional, more curious, more present. There's a specific moment showing up. You're in the middle of your day, maybe walking, maybe doing something ordinary like washing dishes or scrolling without thinking, and a thought of someone crosses your mind with unusual clarity. Not the usual, I wonder how they're doing, but something sharper, like they might be thinking about me too. Does that resonate? The Knight of Cups connects to that intuitive hit. Your emotional world is beginning to move again, and for once, it isn't you doing all the reaching. Let's make this real. This energy feels like someone who hesitated before, for their own reasons, beginning to find the courage to step forward. Someone who once felt uncertain now feels pulled toward you in a way they can't quite rationalize. It's not an impulsive energy, it's a sincere one. You may notice changes like somebody responding faster, a message that feels slightly more open, a tone that softens, a shift from vague to intentional, a small gesture with emotional weight behind it. Or this could be someone new whose energy warms the room the second they enter, the kind of connection you didn't realize you were ready for until it stood in front of you. Have you felt a subtle magnetic pull lately? Like something or someone is quietly approaching your emotional space? Let's bring in a clarity checkpoint here. This is not a promise of a perfect fairy tale moment, but it is the beginning of emotional reciprocity. Energy flowing toward you instead of away from you. And that shift matters because it leads directly into the turning point of this entire reading. Here's where the energy becomes unmistakable. There's a beautifully human message coming through. You've spent so long bracing for disappointment that you almost forgot what it feels like to trust a good thing. Your heart has been walking with careful footsteps, even when you didn't realize it. But the shift ahead, it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's gentle, and it's yours. There's an image coming through clearly. You, standing in a doorway, light spilling in from a room you haven't walked into yet. You're not being pushed, you're being invited. You're stepping into a chapter where emotional safety comes from connection, not solitude. Something is aligning around your sense of deserving. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve softness. You deserve someone who meets you halfway without hesitation. You deserve conversations that don't leave your chest tight. You deserve the kind of clarity that doesn't require decoding. Your intuition is preparing you for a moment of truth. One where someone's actions finally reflect what their silence didn't say. This turning point isn't an event, it's an awakening, an internal knowing that you're allowed to choose what feels right, rather than what feels familiar. And that leads us into what's unfolding soon. Not a prediction, a trajectory, the natural direction your energy wants to move. Here's what I'm seeing in a grounded, real-world way. A moment of emotional clarity, something clicks in your chest, and the confusion you've been holding finally loosens. A shift in someone's behavior, subtle but unmistakable. They reach out, they soften, they show effort. A release of old emotional tension, like the first full breath after weeks of shallow ones. A magnetic moment. You catch someone looking at you differently, or they say something that hits deeper than usual. A decision that feels like alignment, not pressure. You stop forcing something and let it meet you instead. Something in your life will feel lighter, not because it changed, but because you finally trust your ability to choose differently. The next days carry forward movement, warmth, and clarity, the kind that gently opens a door you once thought was closed.
Let's bring this home gently. There's something incredibly tender about the energy surrounding you right now. It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel chaotic. It feels like the quiet moment after rain, when everything is still and the world feels reset in a way you didn't notice until you finally stopped moving. You're entering a chapter where your emotional world becomes softer, clearer, and more reciprocal. Not because someone else saves you, but because you've finally stopped abandoning yourself. You might find yourself noticing small moments that feel like confirmation, a conversation that feels unexpectedly honest, a message that arrives at the exact moment you needed it, a sense of peace that shows up for no reason at all. And when those moments happen, ask yourself, is this what I've been sensing all along? Because here's the truth. Your intuition didn't lead you here by accident. Your heart has been whispering that something was shifting long before your mind caught up. Now, that shift is becoming visible. If something in this reading spoke to you, you're welcome to share what resonated, not to manifest anything, but to ground the clarity you found. And here is your final peak sentence, the emotional closing note this entire reading has been building toward. You're no longer waiting for your life to change. You're standing in the moment where it finally does.